Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to the Battles of the American Civil War with your host, Bang and Dang. And we are officially on, well, I guess we were officially on 1863 last episode with the Van Buren, or the Stones River episode. But we are officially no more 1862. Hello, 1863. And we're going to start this one with 3 battles for you guys. We're going all the way down to Texas for the Battle of Galveston, then back to Missouri for the Second Battle of Springfield, and then on to Arkansas for the Battle of Arkansas Post. I sound like Dang, which is an idiot. The Arkansas Post, also known as the Battle of Fort Hinman. I think the first one, Battle of Galveston, is going to be...
it's the second Battle of Galveston. I know we did Galveston before.
Second Battle of Galveston. It's going to be a bunch of ships and shit going at it. I think the first Battle of Galveston was just like
It was a
the
skirmish.
ship fired once and was like, all right, we're going to go now.
Right.
Battle of Galveston, naval and land battle of the war when Confederate forces under Major General John B. Magruder, bang, ain't seen him in a while. He expelled occupying Union troops from the city of Galveston on January 1st, 1863.
He expelled them?
Expelled them. 2 Confederate cottonclads, the CS Bayou City and the CS Neptune, commanded by Leon Smith, both of them were, sailed from Houston to Galveston in an effort to engage the Union fleet in Galveston Harbor, which consisted of the USS Clifton, USS Harriet Lane, USS Westfield, USS Owasco, USS Corypheus, and the USS Sachem.
Okay.
Outnumbered 6-2 by Northern ships, Neptune was severely damaged by the Union fleet and eventually sank.
Oh, wow.
Right, why would you even go there?
Right.
While Neptune was quickly disabled, Bayou City succeeded in capturing the USS Harriet Lane. No,
Oh, look at that shit.
look at that.
Wow. During this time, USS Westfield was grounded on a sandbar.
Well, there you go. Now it's 1 against 4.
3-hour truce was called for by Magruder, but Union Fleet Commander William B. Renshaw, ignoring the negotiation offer, attempted to destroy the grounded Westfield with explosives rather than let it fall into enemy hands.
Right.
Renshaw and several Union troops were subsequently killed when the explosives were set off too oily. That's what you get for being a moron. It was like, dude, truce. You guys can get your shit out. The Confederates were willing to let them get their boat. Ain't that crazy?
Wonder why. Were they going to sabotage it?
Maybe. Union troops on the shore were convinced that their own ships were surrendering and therefore laid down their arms. Oh, wow. The remaining U.S. ships did not surrender and succeeded in retreating to the Union-controlled Nolans.
Wow, so much for those troops, huh?
Right.
Union blockade around the city of Galveston was lifted temporarily for 4 days, and Galveston remained the only major port that remained in Confederate hands at the end of the war. Wow. The Confederate Congress stated this on the successful recapture of Galveston: the bold, intrepid, and gallant conduct of Major General Bankhead Magruder, Colonel Thomas Green, Major Leon Smith, and other officers and others, and of the Texan Rangers and soldiers engaged in the attack on and victory achieved over the land and naval forces of the enemy at Galveston on the 1st of January, 1863, eminently entitle them to thanks of Congress and the country.
Look at that shit.
This brilliant achievement, resulting under the providence of God in the capture of the war steamer Harriet Lane and the defeat of ignominious flight of the hostile fleet from the harbor, the recapture of the city and the raising of the blockade of the port of Galveston signally evinces that superior force may be overcome by skillful conception and daring courage.
Okay.
Way too long. Could have just said good job.
Right. Moving on.
Ridiculous.
So the Confederates get a little win on the very first day of 1863.
Yeah.
Second Battle of Springfield fought on the 8th of January, 1863 in Springfield, Missouri.
So we had a 7-day lull in action, huh?
On December 31st, 1862, 3 columns of cavalry under the command of Confederate Brigadier General John Marmaduke. They left Pocahontas, Arkansas, and Lewisburg, Arkansas, and moved north on separate roads towards Missouri and the Union supply line. They're like, we got to go to that supply line. It's always good when you get a supply line. Marmaduke's immediate objective was the destruction of the Union Army of the frontiers wagon trains and supply line between Rolla and Springfield. If successful, Marmaduke would cause elements of the Army of the Frontier to withdraw from Arkansas and pursue Marmaduke's division. You think so?
Well, Marmaduke's main column proceeded north through Forsyth, Missouri, where Marmaduke learned that scouts from the Union Army's major supply depot at Springfield was weakly defended.
Well, why?
To clear the way for his Confederates, Marmaduke marched on Ozark, Missouri. The Union garrison stationed at Ozark withdrew, and the Confederates burned its abandoned fort.
Oh, shit.
Second column, commanded by Colonel Emmett McDonald, destroyed the Union fort, which was Fort Lawrence, at Lawrence Mill on Beaver Creek, which is about 10 miles southwest of Ava. A dispatch to the third column under Colonel Joseph C. Porter directed him to join Marmaduke at Springfield rather than Hartville.
Okay.
If everything went as planned, all three commands would converge on Springfield in an attempt to capture the city's lightly defended warehouses of military supplies.
I mean, good plan there. Late afternoon, January 7th, 1863. Federals from the Ozark garrison reached Springfield and informed the local commander, Brigadier General Egbert Brown. Hell of a name. Egbert.
Right. Egbert.
That he was like, Brigadier General Brown, there's Confederate cavalry force with an estimated strength somewhat between 4,000 to 6,000 men, and it's headed right for Springfield. Brigadier General Brown only having 1,343 veteran soldiers. Brown mulled over two options. He could destroy all of the Union Army Frontier's winter supplies at Springfield and retreat, or he could defend the town.
Yeah.
General Grant, on the 23rd of December, 1862, had published a major censure of the Union commander. Censure of the Union commander and forces stationed at Holly Springs, Mississippi, which had participated in the disgraceful surrender at Grant's Holly Springs Supply Depot. No doubt, Brown, recalling this censure, had a strong reason to favor the defense of Springfield. He's like, yeah,
I don't want to get called out publicly by the general here, so we're gonna defend. Well, Brown's subordinates favored the defense of the city also. There you go. The 4th Military District's Commanding General Collie B. Holland immediately sent dispatches to the surrounding communities, calling the enrolled Missouri militia to active duty with orders to hurry to Springfield. Brown also ordered the removal of 50,000 rations from Springfield into Fort No. 1 and prepared for the burning of the armory in the event of defeat. Meanwhile, at Dr. Samuel Melcher's suggestion, Captain Byron Carr mounted 3 cannon onto wagon wheels. Good for him. You, doctor. During the following morning, the Federals issued arms and ammunition to soldiers and civilians alike. They said, do it, man. We need this we need this little fort we got going on here.
All right.
Although Springfield was lightly garrisoned, it had one distinct advantage. It was surrounded by a network of 4 nearly completed earthen forts and a stockaded college building. Oh, cool. Each of the 5 points commanded the high ground. Awesome. Yeah, so you occupy them. Ain't nobody going to come to you.
Right. It looks,
did these Confederates not know the layout of this place?
Well, it looks like the 1,300 men can handle 4,000 to 6,000.
We shall see.
As the morning of 8th of January, 1863 dawned, 2 Confederate columns under Marmaduke approached Springfield from the south. Since Porter's and McDonald's columns had yet arrived, Marmaduke occupied the early morning with foraging and capturing some of the enrolled Missouri militia about 5 miles from Springfield. With McDonald finally present by 10 a.m., the Confederates dismounted 2 regiments about 3 miles from Springfield and advanced to feel out the Union lines and develop their strength. After the Confederates had pushed 2 Union Missouri State Militia Cavalry regiments 2 miles north, the smoking ruins of burning homes on the outskirts of Springfield came into view.
Oh, no.
To provide an unobstructed view for his artillery inside Fort No. 4, which is located on the east side of South Avenue between Elm and Cherry Streets, Brigadier General Brown, at the last minute, ordered 10 homes boinged along South Avenue. He was like, burn those 10 homes.
Colonel Joseph Orville Shelby took command of the tactical operations, launching piecemeal assaults upon the Union center and west flank. Confederates advanced over open ground against Fort No. 4, seeking such shelter as they could get from tree stumps, piles of rock, and the charred remains of the homes burned by the Union forces. Despite repeated efforts, the assault on the fort failed. Shelby then resolved to take Springfield by an oblique attack from the west. The Confederates were drawn by the cover offered by a ravine that led uphill toward town from what is now the intersection of Grand Avenue and Grant Street.
Okay.
At the head of this draw stood a 2-story brick academy surrounded by a stockade. Used by the Federals as a prison, it stood near the southwest corner of what is now the intersection of Campbell Avenue and State Street.
Okay.
Right.
Union forces failed to garrison the college stockade, so the Confederates were able to seize the building easily and use it as their own fortress to return the fire from Fort No. 4. Right. However, heavy fighting soon erupted around the stockade as the Union forces attempted to retake the college and stockade. The Confederates found a local advantage in numbers and pressed their own attack. This phase of the assault saw the most severe casualties, hand-to-hand fighting, and the capture of a cannon by the Confederates.
Good for them. Can't be letting them get brick buildings and shit, dude.
Right.
What the hell? Union troops on the west flank also were pushed back to College Street from their original position along Old Wire Road and State Street. But Union reinforcements halted the Confederate drive and even pushed back the Confederates to the vicinity of State Street. With the sun sinking, Marmaduke launched a final assault against Fort No. 4. Union forces again repelled the attack. As night fell, the Confederates withdrew down the Ozark Road to the Phelps Farm, which is now Phelps Grove Park. The Battle of Springfield's ended. Union Supply Depot safe.
Oh, look at that shit. Of the approximately 2,099 Union troops engaged, 19 were killed or missing. 146 were wounded for a total loss of 165 men. That's 7.9%.
Not good.
2 months later, the total killed would reach 30. The missing in action would stand at 6, and 195 had been wounded. Dang, 50 more that you guys didn't see were wounded.
Apparently. Or maybe they, who was wounded died.
Of the approximately 1,870 Confederate troops present, at least 45 were killed or missing, and 105 were wounded for a total loss of at least 150 men, which is 8%.
Wow.
Marmaduke admitted that the Confederate returns were incomplete. Author Frederick Goldman uses several period reports to arrive at an estimate of 70 to 80 killed, 12 captured, and 200 wounded. The absence of Porter's column greatly impacted Marmaduke's chance for success at Springfield. Why wasn't Porter there?
Needed Porter, man. I don't know why. Right. He's like, well, I think we'll just stop here. Within 4 days, the Confederate raiders retreated to Arkansas. Springfield continued to remain an important supply and medical center for the Union Army in the West. A series of 12 interpretive markers have recently been placed throughout the downtown Springfield at the important sites of the battle. They are intended to be visited in sequence on a walking tour.
Oh, no shit.
The first marker is located at Park Central Square, where it was removed from its original location at Street and Water Street. We got Street.
Street Avenue.
Street. Among the Confederate dead was Spencer McCoy, son of Kansas City, Missouri founder John McCoy. Wow. Hey. The elder McCoy was allowed to come to Springfield to claim his son, who was buried with him in Union Cemetery in Kansas City.
No shit.
Look at that. So, Kansas City founded by a bunch of racists.
Right.
And now they got a black guy representing their team.
So, which brings us to the Battle of Arkansas Post, also known as the Battle of Fort Hindman, fought on January 9th all the way to the 11th of 1863 near the mouth of the Arkansas River, Arkansas Post, Arkansas, as part of the Vicksburg campaign. With Confederate defenses on the Arkansas and the White Rivers being minimal, Colonel John W. Dunnington was appointed commander of river defenses within the state on the 28th of December, 1862. Dunnington selected a location for a fortification on the Arkansas River near the settlement of Arkansas Post, located about a quarter mile north of the village, at a point commanding the river on a hairpin curve. The fort mounted 3 heavy guns, 2 9-inch Columbiads, and 1 8-inch and 8 later guns.
All right.
Okay.
The Columbiads were originally from the CSS Pontchartrain, known by both the names Fort Hindman and the Post of Arkansas. The fortification was square-shaped with sides 100 yards long.
Okay.
3 buildings, 2 magazines, and a well were located in the fort. Hey, look at that. I got a well. From the fort, 720 yards west to the Post Bayou, ran a line of trenches.
Okay.
December 10th, Brigadier General Thomas Churchill was appointed to command the post. Meanwhile, in the state of Mississippi, Grant was moving down the Mississippi Central Railroad with 40,000 men in an attempt to capture the city of Vicksburg.
Oh.
And he began that way back in November 26th.
Did.
December 5th, Halleck suggested a naval operation down the Mississippi River against Vicksburg using a portion of Grant's force.
Okay. A naval operation against Vicksburg had been planned since November by McClernand, who believed he would have full command of such a movement. However, Halleck, who distrusted McClernand, used language in the official orders the latter had received and to undercut him. McClernand could only use troops not required by Grant.
Okay.
Grant, who had a rocky relationship with McClernand, tabbed Sherman to lead Halleck's proposed maneuver downriver.
Damn.
After Sherman reached Memphis to prepare for the movement, Halleck informed Grant that President Lincoln wanted McClernand to command the naval movement.
Oh, Lincoln's like, come on, guys.
Right.
Just give him a chance.
Grant, in turn, knowing that Sherman was expected to begin the expedition in a matter of days, sent McClernand a letter, intentionally eschewing faster telegraph service, offering him a position under his command.
So Grant's like, I'm going to send him a letter just so it's formally seen that I told him to come on down, but I'll make sure it's going to not get there for like a week. Mm-hmm. And by that time, Sherman's already got to go.
Right.
Well, acting Rear Admiral David D. Porter was in command of the Union Navy portion of the Riverine movement towards Vicksburg. Sherman's men left Memphis on December 20th. McClernand was still in Illinois, and the movement he had intended to command left without him. Jeez.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
The same day that Sherman left, Confederate cavalry raids destroyed Grant's supply lines, and he was forced to retreat. Sherman's operation, which contained over 30,000 men, reached the Vicksburg area on Christmas Eve and sailed up the Yazoo River. After landing on December 26th and 27th, the Union soldiers made a frontal attack against Confederate defenses at the Chickasaw Bayou.
Uh-oh.
We just had that a couple episodes ago on December 29th, but were repulsed with heavy losses. Defeated, Sherman's men reboarded their ships on January 1st and withdrew from the battlefield.
Tails between your legs.
We'll be back.
When Sherman reached the Mississippi from the Yazoo, he met McClernand, who was upset about being sidestepped in command of the river expedition. He's like, what do you do? But it's over now, bud.
Right.
After the discussion between the two officers, McClernand took command of the force. He's like, I'm taking it now. He's like, go ahead. We don't got nothing else.
Right, like, yeah, but I don't want to march with all these guys back anyways.
He's like, I'm changing the name too. Army of the Mississippi, baby. And Sherman became a subordinate commander in the Army.
Okay.
Sherman did not approve of McClernand's appointment to the command, and in a letter to his wife stated that Lincoln will get his fill before he is done.
Damn, he's like, I'm going to talk to my buddy John Wilkes.
Dang. In late December, Confederate troops had captured a Union supply steamer, Blue Wing, and sent it back to Arkansas Post. Sherman heard of the raid and believed that more raids from the position at Arkansas Post were likely.
Viewing Arkansas Post as a threat and believing that a victory would restore his men's broken morale,
Will it, though?
Sherman began planning a movement against the Confederate position. Separately, McClernand had also decided on a movement on Arkansas Post. Like, who's going to get there first? Night of January 3rd and 4th, two officers went to speak with Porter about using his naval vessels in the movement. Porter disliked McClernand. What's up with this McClernand guy? What did he do to everybody?
Right.
And his treatment of Sherman, but agreed to the movement for Sherman.
Right.
Writing about Sherman's support for the plan, Richard L. Kuiper wrote that his motives were somewhat suspect and likely based on desiring a victory to restore the damage his reputation had taken from the Chickasaw Bayou little loss.
Right.
That's true. I mean, hey.
This guy was driven by revenge.
Not revenge, vengeance. But what is that word? Like this guy just said, clearly.
Right.
He's wants to be whatever.
Yeah, vindicated.
Right, there you go. Vindication. Yeah.
And during this time, McClernand believed that he was an Army commander, while he really only held a Corps command under Grant. Accordingly, on the morning of 4th of January, McClernand organized his command into the 13th and 15th Army Corps. Sherman commanded the latter, while the former was under Brigadier General George W. Morgan, whom Sherman blamed for the defeat at Chickasaw Bayou. Both corps had two divisions. The 8th Corps had those of Brigadier Generals Andrew Smith and Peter Osterhaus, while the 15th Corps, too, were commanded by Brigadier Generals Frederick Steele and David Stewart.
All right. Well, meanwhile, Churchill had about 5,000 Confederates at Arkansas Post. These men were largely dismounted cavalrymen from Arkansas and Texas, although only about 3,000 were healthy enough to fight due to outbreaks of disease.
Oh, shit.
Most were armed with short-range carbines and shotguns, and opposed to longer range rifles.
You need those.
Yeah, Churchill's command was divided into 3 brigades, commanded by Colonels Dunnington, Robert Garland, and James Deschler.
Fantastic. McClernand's force, which consisted of about 30,000 infantry and 1,000 cavalry, as well as 40 cannons, began moving upriver on the 5th of January. I wonder why he thought he was a hot shot.
Right. Like, I got 30,000 of these motherfuckers.
Right. In order to keep the element of surprise, the Union fleet entered the White River instead of the Arkansas, before using a connecting path between the two rivers to move back into the Arkansas. The infantrymen were moved on transport vessels with 9 warships in support. Damn. 3 of the vessels were ironclads, the USS Baron de Kalb, the USS Louisville, and the USS Cincinnati. 9th of January. Churchill was informed of the approaching Union fleet. He ordered his men to defend an outer set of incomplete rifle pits. Like, dude, they outnumber us 1,000 to 1.
Force of Texans from Garland's brigade was sent forward as skirmishers, and the 6 cannons of Hart's Arkansas battery were advanced to a position at the rifle pits near the river. Meanwhile, McClernand's men were being offloaded from the transports about 3 or 4 miles from the Arkansas post. With the process beginning at 5 p.m., Morgan's corps was to advance directly, while Sherman's was to swing around and attack from the northwest. Same day, the Union warships bombarded the Confederate works.
Spaghetti-o. Morning of 10th of January, Sherman's men finished unloading around 11 a.m. One of Morgan's brigades under the command of Colonel Daniel Lindsay advanced and took up a position on the other side of the river in order to prevent riverine reinforcements from reaching the Confederates. As Sherman was beginning his flanking movement with Steele's division, McClernand's determined that a more direct path looked promising, so Stewart's division was rerouted along it. Steele's men, in Toyne, found that their flanking path was blocked by an impassable swamp, and that the division had to backtrack its path anyhow. Porter's ships were also busy that morning, as the ironclads and the gunboat USS Lexington fired on Fort Hinman, while the gunboats USS Blackhawk and USS Rattler fired on the rifle pits.
Right. Around 2 p.m., Churchill learned of Sherman's flanking maneuver and decided to withdraw his forces from the outer line, which was quickly reoccupied by Stuart's men. They said, "Thank you." One Union brigade pressed the Confederate retreat until it came under fire from Confederates in the main fort. Morgan's men went advanced as well, and the Union lines were filled out with Stuart's men on the right, approaching Post Bayou, and Smith's on the left.
Okay.
Confusion during the movements into these positions led to delays. Well, tell us something we don't know.
Right.
Before the delays had occurred, McClernand told Porter that his men would be ready to attack by 2 p.m. At 5:30 p.m., McClernand told Porter that his men were finally ready, and the Union vessels advanced towards the fort to bombard it.
Damn, 3.5 hours later.
Right, jeez.
Man, the three ironclads moved into close range and were each assigned one of the heavy Confederate guns. Lexington and Blackhawk provided supporting fire. The shooting from the naval vessels was effective, and most of the horses within the Confederate position were moited.
Don't escape easily for use.
Rattler was assigned to move past the fort and bombard it from the other side, but it was damaged when it fouled on a piling in the river.
Oh.
That sucks. And it had to withdraw. The Confederate batteries had been silenced, but McClernand did not attack, and it soon became too dark for an assault. While the Confederate position had been badly damaged by the naval fire, Rattler had suffered significant damage. 17 men had become casualties on the Baron de Kalb. Cincinnati had been struck 9 times, and the Louisville had taken 5 hits.
Hey, man, got this objective completed, though.
Right.
Churchill was informed by Lieutenant General Theophilus Holmes that he was expected to hold out till help arrived or all dead. Oh, jeez.
I don't think so.
Holmes originally denied reinforcements, but then stated he would send some. A company of Texans reached the Confederate position on the night of January 10th. McClernand also made a nighttime movement. A gap existed between Stuart's division and Post Bayou, and Steele's men were brought up from the rear to fill it. He said, "Let's fill that gap up."
Doesn't the Confederates know what they're going against, though?
I don't think so.
Oh, my.
Well, it's a fort. You can't lose your fort.
Morning of January 11th, the Confederate completed improvements to improvised breastworks that they have been constructing.
Wow, they're just letting them do this.
Deshler's left flank was exposed, so he had the 15th Texas Cavalry repositioned to make the line stronger. Also on that morning, Steele had Brigadier General Charles Hovey's brigade deployed parallel to the Post Bayou and to move towards the Arkansas River to finish surrounding the Confederate force. In order to counter this threat, Deshler had men pulled from his various units to act as skirmish line to defend the area between the flank of the 15th Texas Cavalry and the Post Bayou. Hovey and Deshler's men made contact, exchanged fire. Learning of Hovey's movement, Churchill had the Texans, who had just arrived the previous night, and 2 companies of the Louisiana Cavalry defend the line of the Post Bayou down to the Arkansas River. And he also sent the 19th Arkansas Infantry and 4 guns of Hart's battery to support Deshler. Round noon, another of Steele's brigades, commanded by Brigadier General John Thayer, moved to Hovey's left.
All right. That morning, Sherman had also ordered Stuart to move a brigade forward towards the fort. Stuart sent Colonel Giles Smiths. Jeez. Giles Smith. All right.
Giles Smith.
Moved him forward in a double line supported by Colonel Thomas Smith's brigade to Giles Smith's left rear. Andrew Jackson Smith's division was moved forward, and Osterhaus's came up from the rear, although only one of his brigades was present, and as Lindsay's was still in its blocking position, and the 3rd was in the rear guarding the Union transport vessels. 2 20-pounder Parrott rifles were brought forward to engage one of the 9-inch Columbiads in the fort, which had given Porter ships problems the previous day. 1 p.m., Porter ships moved toward the fort to again bombard it.
Okay,
how about you take out that 9-inch Columbiad?
Right. The 3 Union ironclads, supported by Lexington and 2 other gunboats, fired from the river, while the Union cannons on land joined in as well.
Nice.
4 cannons from the Chicago Mercantile Battery fired as well. It took only about an hour to wreck one side of the Confederate fort and knock out all 3 heavy guns.
Nice.
The Union land artillery had orders to fire for 30 minutes after the naval bombardment opened, which was to be followed by an infantry attack 3 minutes after 30-minute firing intervals. Okay. When the infantry began to attack, the men were ordered to yell loudly so that the naval vessels would hear the noise and know to shift their fire to prevent friendly fire.
Hey, good for you guys.
Morgan could observe the progress of the gunboats while Sherman had to judge by sound. With the Confederates not firing in response to his cannonade, Sherman cut his cannon fire off early and sent his infantry in for the assault. They're like, we're just wasting ammo here.
Right.
They're not firing back.
When Hovey's brigade attacked, it came under fire from Confederates on the other side of Post Bayou. To counter this threat, the 17th Missouri Infantry was aligned along Post Bayou. Fire from Deschler's Confederates and 2 of Hart's pieces halted the Union attack until the 76th Ohio Infantry moved up and drove the Confederate cannon crews off. Hovey suffered an arm wound but remained on the field. To the left, Thayer's brigade was repulsed by the 10th Texas Infantry. Hovey, in turn, had the 3rd Missouri Infantry and the 31st Iowa Infantry attack the 15th Texas Cavalry, but they were also repulsed. Deschler sent the 19th Arkansas to support the Texans. In Stewart's sector, Giles Smith's brigade came under heavy enfilade fire from Hart's battery, and men had to crawl forward to a wooded position to fire into the battery and silence it.
Oh, man. Look at this shit. There's some freaking war going on. T.K. Smith's brigade aligned on Giles Smith's left, and 2 artillery batteries were brought forward. The 2 brigades were then held in preparation for a general storming of the Confederate works. To counter attacks against his line, Deschler requested reinforcements, and he was granted parts of 3 Texas cavalry units from the Garland's brigade. As the Union attack moved from the right to the left, Brigadier General Stephen Burbridge's brigade from Morgan's corps advanced. Confederate soldiers fired upon the brigade from a group of huts, but were cleared by an attack of the 23rd Wisconsin Infantry. Wow.
All right.
Confederates getting their asses whooped.
Yes, they are. The brigade was forced to halt by fire from Garland's brigade when it closed in on the Confederate position. Colonel William Landrum's brigade was brought up in support. 2 brigades fought Garland's men for an hour and a half, with Burbridge's outfit suffering about a third of the Union casualties in the whole battle. 3 p.m., Osterhaus sent his single available brigade into the fray, and the Confederate defenders were driven back. The 120th Ohio Infantry attempted to storm the fort, but became pinned down by a ravine by Confederate fire.
Oh, shit. The Union began a heavy artillery barrage, planning to make a general advance once it was over. Porter had Rattler, the gunboat USS Glide, and the ram USS Monarch slipped past the fort to fire into it from the rear. Around 4:30 p.m., white flags of surrender began to fly from Fort Henry.
All right. We did all we can do here, man.
Garland began to hear that Churchill had ordered the surrender, although the orders did not pass through expected channels. Historian Ed Beers, he wrote that he did not believe that Churchill actually issued the order. Churchill himself also denied ordering a capitulation. Seeing the white flag, Sherman ordered Steele to stop fighting and move to the Confederate position, where he ordered Garland to have his brigade stack arms.
Stack 'em up, boys. In turn, Andrew Jackson Smith had Burbridge advance to the fort. Burbridge went to personally plant a flag on the...
Is it like a war crime or something like that if you put the white flag up and then like bombard them when they come in?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be taken too well.
Right. Don't ever believe a white flag again.
Right, exactly. I don't think you want to do that.
No, never.
And
Who knew you had morals in war?
Right. In turn, Andrew Jackson Smith had Burbridge advance to the fort, and Burbridge went to personally plant a flag on the fort when Confederate soldiers insisted that the fort had not surrendered until the white flags were pointed out to them. Look, they're right there.
See that one?
It's funny that this guy was able to just walk up, and the other soldiers, the Confederates, are like, "Hey, man, we didn't surrender." Like, no, look, they're right there. Oh, all right, here you go. Deschler did not believe that a surrender had occurred and kept fighting until Union troops called a flag of truce. During the truce, Deschler discussed with Steele and informed him that he intended to stop fighting. Steele, so you should have just stopped.
Right.
Steele informed Sherman of this development, who sent Churchill to talk with Deschler. Eventually, Deschler agreed to surrender after Sherman pointed out that his line had been swamped with Union soldiers and that some of his men had already been disarmed. It was like, dude, it's over with, dude. Just come on.
You want to go to jail or go home?
Right. Like, we're going to parole you. Let's get the hell out of here.
When the surrender was completed, 4,791 Confederates had been captured. Partial returns indicate a further 60 Confederates killed and 80 wounded. The Civil War Battlefield Guide placed total Confederate losses at 5,004. Wow. McClernand reported capturing 17 cannons, 3,000 stands of infantry weapons, and additional equipment. The men lost at Arkansas Post amount to about a third or a fourth of the Confederates then in Arkansas. Damn, that's a lot. A few hundred men had managed to escape back to homes. Union losses were 1,092 men. McClernand's force had suffered 1,061 casualties and Porter 31. Porter's like, I'm better.
Right. Significantly. Glorious, glorious. My star is ever in the ascendant. John A. McClernand responding to the victory says. That's why nobody likes you, McClernand. Grant originally thought the expedition was a waste of time and had ordered McClernand back to Vicksburg area as soon as he found out about the Arkansas Post movement. Grant later sent a disapproving letter to Halleck, who gave him permission to reassign McClernand.
McClernand thought he did some good shit.
Right. McClernand made plans and orders for a movement against Little Rock, but this was overruled by Grant, who came down the Mississippi to take overall command of the army. He said, get out of here.
Dude, maybe McClernand would have went in there and got it.
Maybe.
Porter
Sounds like Grant's a bitch.
Right. Porter and Sherman were able to convince Grant of the Military Valley of the Arkansas Post expedition. Grant later noted that the Confederate forces at Arkansas Post could have proved problematic if left undetected.
Right.
January 18th or the 19th, Army of the Mississippi was dissolved, and McClernand became a corps commander under Grant. Part of the battlefield is located within Arkansas Post, although 360 acres have been submerged due to river course changes and the construction of the Arkansas Post Canal.
All right, good for that, huh? Well, Union doing some stuff in this one, huh?
Good shit.
I got 2 wins for the Union and 1 for the Confederates to start out the year.
Laying a beat down.
Yeah, they did, too. There was no match in those ones. Coming up next, we got the Battle of Hartville in Missouri. Then we got the Bear River Massacre.
Oh, shit.
Which is in Idaho. We got some
Massacre.
Idaho stuff, huh?
So we got a massacre? Unarmed? People unarmed dying? Oh, man. A Shoshone? Why they attacking Indians?
Hundreds of Shoshone men, women, and children were killed near the lodges.
You bastards. See, Union are some devils.
Then we'll probably have the Battle of Dover in Tennessee as well on the next episode.
The Monster Mile?
Yeah, with that being said, we'll be back next week for that. Go check out Battles of American Civil War. You already are. Go check out Outlaws and Gunslingers and This Week in Sports History, the latter being on this very Bang Dang network. Patreon.com/Bang Dang for all of our episodes free of ads and early, at least 2 days early for all of our episodes before it hits the free version.
It could be a week early for Outlaws and Gunslingers.
Could be, yeah. You never know. Right. And also our YouTube channel, Bang Dang Network over there. Trying to get some subscribers over there, so go subscribe. Also, leave some reviews.
I mean, come on, I don't care if you guys suck or, you know.
You don't even have to post nothing. Just leave a star review. Could be 1 star, could be 5 stars. It doesn't matter. Just
we prefer 2.5.
Let's get some reviews up on this podcast. Let's start spreading the word about this. We still got a long ways to go and before this war's over, so plenty of time for people to get caught up and get right where we are for a weekly episode. So wherever you, Spotify and Apple, probably the 2 only ones I think you can leave reviews on. So go ahead and do that for us, and we shall be back for 3 more battles next week. We'll see you then. We're the Month of Michiganers with
Bang Dang.